This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
Hi, I'm Dorothy. Are you ready to dive deep into one of the bougiest zip codes in the country? The good, the bad, the ups and downs, the real and the not so real. This is That Greenwich Life. But first, a word from this episode's sponsor.
Ready to elevate your travel experience? Discover Jonathan's Travels, your source for luxury vacations of a lifetime. We have planned thousands of trips crafting the most unforgettable experiences of our clients' dreams, whether it's a bucket list safari, an epic adventure country hopping around Europe, a Disney World vacation with VIP perks, or exploring the cultures of Asia. Named one of the world's top agencies by the Robb Report, Travel & Leisure, and Condé Nast Traveler, we're more than a travel agency. We're your travel partner to create vacations beyond your imagination. Jonathan's Travels, where your journey becomes a masterpiece.
Hey everyone, this is your host, Dorothy Cascerceri Simone, and welcome back to another episode of That Greenwich Life. Happy Thursday. Thank you for joining me. We have a really fun show planned for you today. I'm just actually popping into the studio today, really on my way to a fun little day on Greenwich Avenue with my best friend from high school who's visiting from Philly. Please welcome back to the show because, by the way, she joined me in episode 4, all about imposter syndrome. She is the anxiety healer on Instagram. You guys have to go to her page. She has 600,000 followers or something now. Carson Daly follows her, likes all of her things, comments, all these things. Anyway, welcome back to the show, Alison Seponara.
Thank you for having me.
It's
actually 574,000.
Okay, well,
not 600 yet. We're
counting?
working on that.
Well, hopefully after this episode, it'll be 600,000.
We'll see. It's fine. I just love the opportunity. Yeah.
But no, it's so crazy. Look at us right now. This is wild. Our 25-year high school reunion is coming up. And I think, would we ever have thought that these two girls sitting in these two chairs would be at this level in life and in career and sitting together in a podcast studio?
No, of course not. Because if you go listen to the imposter syndrome episode, you would see why I would not think that.
Exactly.
Because I didn't think I could, come to this level of success ever up until a couple of years ago when I actually kind of embraced it all.
Yes, you have. And you just... So she has a very successful first book that has been out, The Anxiety Healer's Toolkit.
The Anxiety Healer's Guide.
Yeah. And it's a true toolkit for all of the anxiety that you're experiencing. It's something that you can take with you and you can reference back to it.
Yes.
But you have a second book. She got a second book deal, you guys. This is a really big deal. And this one is for clinicians.
Yes, it's the Anxiety Healer's Guide for Clinicians. So the first book is really meant for kind of anyone in any walks of life can kind of pick up this book, and it's kind of a self-help resource guide. I'm a holistic practitioner, so it involves a lot of holistic ways to heal yourself and coping strategies and mindfulness-based techniques. So, and then the guide for clinicians is really for anyone who's kind of a healer who works with people that struggle with anxiety. So the books are actually meant to be used in tandem. So for a lot of my colleagues, I'm a psychologist. A lot of my colleagues, I recommend getting the Anxiety Healer's Guide for Clinicians to help guide the clients through different types of cognitive behavioral treatments and worksheets, and then have the client buy the Anxiety Healer's Guide, and they use that together because the client can kind of take the Anxiety Healer's Guide home and practice things, and then the therapist can work on the guide with them in session.
It's incredible what you're doing.
Yeah.
It really is. And actually, it's such a special celebratory occasion that Allie is visiting me here in Greenwich, and we're having so much fun because she just got done on just a few days ago. I mean, today is... What day is today? We're taping on a Friday, and she just got done a few days ago, this incredible webinar for the promotion of her new book, The Anxiety Healer's Guide for Clinicians. Yeah. And she had 15,000 people sign up for this. So she's kind of a big deal.
It was really cool.
And today I love what we did today because we decided, Pod Populi studio is at the top of Greenwich Avenue. If you're not familiar with Greenwich, Greenwich Avenue is kind of like the Fifth Avenue. It's like what Fifth Avenue is to New York City. This is what it is for Greenwich. And there's all shopping and restaurants and all sorts of great things, nail salons, whatever. And so we decided that I'm going to take the day off from momming because I have my best friend in town, and we are going to pop in here, do a quick episode, and then we're going to head on over to Greenwich Avenue and we're going to do some shopping and some lunch. And you never know in Greenwich who you might run into, because I haven't told you this. This is the first you're going to hear of it. But just a few weeks ago at lunchtime, guys, this is why it's so much fun living in Greenwich, because it's like you get those New York minutes, even though you're not in New York City. My sources tell me, I always said this is not a gossip show, but you all know I used to do celebrity gossip. My sources tell me that, and I saw the actual photo, that Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel were picking up a casual lunch.
Stop it.
I'm not even kidding, at right here on Greenwich Avenue at this place called Mix Kitchen, MYX.
Okay.
And it's just like a health food store. And my friend was in there grabbing lunch during her lunch break, because she works right on the avenue, and ran into them. And they couldn't have been nicer.
Oh.
And she even asked Justin Timberlake if she could take a picture with him. There's been a lot of whispers. Right, could you imagine if we run into Justin Timberlake after this?
Stop.
Yeah. So you never know. And then another friend of mine recently was on Greenwich Avenue, and she walked right into David Beckham's son, Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
Brooklyn Beckham and his wife. So she ran into him. So it's just like you never know what you're going to find.
Amazing.
It's pretty cool, right?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason why I come here to visit you, to be honest, just kidding. But I always loved when you lived in New York, and I'm outside Philly, and I love seeing just different celebrities, but I'm not really like starstruck though. You know what I mean? I'm not someone who will just be so starstruck, but I don't know if I would go up to them. That's the only thing. I might go up and say, I love your music, but I don't know if I'd ever say, hey, can I get a picture? Or I think I'd be too intimidated, but.
Well, my friend actually played it cool, but loves his music so much. She went to Justin's concert this summer.
Okay.
And so she just thought, I have to like take the bull by the horns, which I love, right? Because this is what I always promote on That Greenwich Life. Like, you see an opportunity and you just go for it.
Totally.
And she did. And she's, I give her so much credit. And she showed him some of the footage from the concert and told him how she had such a great time.
So
and it was
cool.
it was a school night for her kids, but she went out and like made time to do it. So it was really cool. And actually another place that I need to take you while you're here is that opened not on Greenwich Avenue, right off the avenue, right by Whole Foods, is Patsy's Pizzeria, which if you are familiar with New York City, Patsy's is just, it is New York City. Like Patsy's, there's several locations. There used to be one right 2 blocks down from my old apartment. The day that we closed on our apartment, we went and had dinner there. There's one on the Upper West Side that we've been to, Upper East Side, and now they just opened. And when we went, my husband and I, last week for dinner, first of all, they have the best martinis with blue cheese stuffed olives. But who was dining there but Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets. Who, is worth like $17 billion or something.
Okay.
And so anyway, I chatted with him a little bit when we were there. I gave him my business card for That Greenwich Life, because you just never know.
That's cool.
You just
Good
never
for
know.
you.
But I always feel
awesome.
like the universe puts us in different places that mean something. And so if you just kind of hang back and you don't reach out, I don't know, you might be missing something.
Yeah. 100%. Now, if you had told me that story and said that Charlie Manuel was in there, who was basically the head coach of the Phillies back in like 2008 when they won the World Series, that would be something I'd be interested in, okay? Right. Being from Philadelphia and a Phillies fan. But this guy, I probably would have no idea even what he looks like.
I didn't know.
You would say, oh, this is, I would say, huh? Oh, okay.
But I think Patsy's is going to be a very popular celebrity restaurant because we were waiting for it to open for months and months and months, and finally it did, and it did not disappoint. The meal was incredible. But so when we were talking about, what are we going to talk about on the podcast, we had this conversation earlier in the week or last week about this question that we were asking one another. It really actually, I think, started from me asking you, because I really look up to Allie with everything that she's done with her Instagram following and the way that she has helped people and helped people heal their anxiety. You're doing so much good in this world, and it inspires me. And so that's why I wanted That Greenwich Life, not just to be some fluffy, silly show about this suburb where all these rich people live, I wanted it to be about something more, because we all need healing, certainly in all areas of our country, but a place like Greenwich where people do become very obsessed with financial things and they think like money will buy you happiness. It's not true. And so my whole goal for the show is to just help people heal. But I said to you, in our phone call, I said to you, sometimes I feel like, I don't have 10,000 listeners. Now we've only had, over 18 episodes, 17 episodes. But the point is is it worth it? Is it successful? Does it feel successful?
Right.
And we started to talk about this, and I said, we need to talk about this more on the podcast, because there's lots of people listening that are doing something right now. It might not be a podcast, but you're doing something in your life where you're putting a lot in and you may not be getting the results that you're looking for.
So we were talking a little bit about the word success, right? And that's actually, you had me thinking about something when you just talked about living here and being in Greenwich. And I mean, I come here, and if you guys listened to me on the other episode, I explained my lifestyle and how different it is from yours. I live in a 2-bedroom condo. I'm single. I have no kids. I, work from home in this little corner in my apartment. I'm hoping to get somewhere bigger at some point in my life. But I mean, what does success mean? For me, it definitely isn't making millions of dollars. That's not what that means for me, right? And for some people it is, and that's okay. That's okay too, right? But at the same time, it doesn't make you, success doesn't make, with money, won't ever just make you happy. Does it make things easier? Yeah, it does. It makes things easier. But in reality, what does success really mean? And honestly, I think being able to listen to episodes like this and kind of think about your life and recognize that it doesn't matter how much money someone has. People have, I don't know if I can curse.
Don't.
Okay. People have stuff that they go through in life. It doesn't discriminate, right?
That's right.
Adversity doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter if you make $1 billion a year, $1 million, or $30,000. It doesn't matter. And so what is success? I mean, for me, it really means if I wake up every day and I feel fulfilled with the way that I'm living, and if I feel content with who's in my life, and I feel grateful, and I can move through my day feeling pretty regulated as someone who has anxiety and has been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, has social anxiety, health anxiety. I mean, being able to wake up and just think to myself, okay, today I'm going to focus on today. I'm going to be present. I have a whole toolkit, of course, of over the last couple of years, but there's things in life that I know are going to happen to me as I get older that I'm not going to be able to control. But I want to make sure that I can wake up and still feel grateful and fulfilled every day, that the way I'm living my life, I'm living my truth, you know?
That's right. I think it took me a long time, in just 2 and 3 weeks ago, I talked really got into a lot about my my very traumatic pregnancy loss and, what I went through on the path to having my daughter, Gemma. She's 18 months now. And if you are just tuning in for the first time, I also have a son who's almost 9. But I mean, that goes to show how long it took. I have an 18-month-old and an 8-year-old. But I think during the process of going through IVF, I had 5 rounds, none of which worked. I was under anesthesia more times than Michael Jackson, and my brain is still fried from it, I do believe. But I realized that the way that maybe our generation was raised, or the things that we were taught, that we were led to believe, one of those things, and tell me if you agree, one of those things I think was, work hard and then you'll get the results, or, hard work breeds success. And if you work hard, all your dreams will come true. And this kind of very black and white, very finite formula.
Yeah.
And I think that in one respect, I understand why maybe that message was communicated to us. But in another respect, during IVF, when I was doing a million shots to my abdomen, every day, and then going in to the doctor like every other day, taking tons of blood, so many needles. I mean, doing all the things, going in under anesthesia, and then just to end up with a big fat 0, like I'm not pregnant, I don't have a baby, I don't have any embryos left, and I'm starting all the way from scratch, as if nothing that I just did, that also, by the way, cost like $30,000.
Right.
Like nothing that I just did even happened, and it made me really challenge this notion that if we work really, really hard, we may not get the result that we have our sights set on. If we work really hard, we may not achieve whatever it is that we're working towards.
Right.
And that's a really hard pill to swallow. How does that work? Like A plus B does not equal C. That doesn't make sense. But I realized through that journey that that's actually okay. It's actually okay. You don't have to, you have to really stop being so attached to an outcome and to a result.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about success and how we define success.
Yes.
Right? It all kind of links together.
It's really hard not to become attached to an outcome, especially if anyone's listening that's single and is in the dating scene like me. It took me a long time to go out on dates and really shift my mindset to just having fun and not being so attached to the outcome of even just that date. Not that I'm going in saying, am I going to marry this man? Some people might, and that's actually being attached to an outcome right there.
Right.
And that's not healthy either. And now I go in, I used to then go into a lot of dates saying, oh my gosh, I wonder if I'm going to get a second date with him. And like, it would even just be that, because I would be texting with him for a little bit, or we'd be messaging on the apps. And I think to myself, oh, I really like our conversations. And then I already create the story in my mind of maybe how this could be with this guy. Then I go out with him and look at what just happened. Had this very interesting experience. You can listen to The Anxiety Chicks. That's my podcast to hear that more about that if you want.
Allie's podcast is awesome. Definitely check it out.
But yeah, so it's just now I actively before I go on a date or if I start talking to someone, I'm very intentional now. So I really consider what I feel like am aligned with this person. And I say to myself, like, I'm honestly going to just go have fun. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to go have fun. This is an experience to meet someone new and actually maybe have a couple hours of a nice conversation. If it doesn't move forward, that's okay. That's okay. And so I'm really just trying to be intentional and more present about it. So I guess that's a concrete example of something in my life where I'm trying to not attach to an outcome.
And you're also giving up some level of control, because again, this whole thing that I feel we were taught, hard work pays off, right? Hard work pays off. I'm not saying that that's an untrue statement, because hard work does always pay off, maybe not in the way that you intended for the work to pay off.
Yeah.
But it does always pay off, right? Which then makes me really say to myself, you have to go into any situation. This is what I tell Nicholas, my son. You have to go into any situation or any kind of time that you have to perform, whether it's a math test. I was up like until 9 o'clock sitting at the kitchen counter the other night, being haunted by my own like honors math trauma. helping him study for this math test. But I always tell him, you have to be able to say, I am going into this. I am doing everything that I can do in my power to get a good result.
Yeah.
And this is what I had to tell myself a few years back when I was going through IVF, because the first couple rounds, I'm like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean I have a negative pregnancy test? Like, I had an embryo that was PGT tested, which meant that chromosomally, it was totally healthy.
Yeah.
I did shots for like 2.5 weeks nonstop. I put a huge, 8-inch long needle in my rear end. Well, I didn't do it. My husband did it. But, like for my trigger shot, I went to the doctor every single morning. I even woke up at 7 a.m. on Mother's Day and went to the doctor, drove into the Upper East Side to go to the doctors. Like, I got pricked more times than a pincushion. And I put all these hormones in my body that made me a crazy person, that made me cry, that made me lash out at my husband. Well, he probably deserved it, but sorry, John. No, but really, like, hormones that alter your moods. I did all of this. I worked hard. I did all of the work. And how do I have a negative pregnancy test and no frozen embryos, nothing in the bank? How? I got robbed. But you know what? I might have gotten robbed, but I think what really happened was I needed to start changing my belief.
Right.
My belief was, if I do X, Y, and Z, then I will get A, B, and C. And when you come to the realization, and it took me a long time, this was not an overnight epiphany. When you come to the realization that that's not really how the world works, it is so freeing. It's hard. It's really hard to give up that control and relinquish that control, but it is the most freeing thing, because then you take it one step further and then you start to actually be able to believe that, and by the way, I found out this belief, and I've talked about this before, and Allie, you're very familiar with this. I found this belief at the Himalayan Institute in, where is it? Homesdale,
PA,
Pennsylvania. This retreat center is incredible. And I have talked about Carrie and her our yoga home, which I know you love that yoga studio in Philly. But I came to the realization at that retreat, which was a very emotional grief retreat that I went to, that if you can just put your best foot forward in any situation, and you can know and find peace in the fact that you are doing all that you can, that you have done all that you can then take it one step further, and you can believe and rest in the belief that everything is happening for you.
Yeah.
And not to you.
Yes. It is really, really hard to, I'm sure you know this with what you remember of the trauma you went through, but when you're kind of in the middle of that, it's really hard to gain perspective.
It is.
About things
It's
happening
impossible.
for a reason, right? I mean, look at all of just some of the challenges and some of the really, really horrible things that happen in our world, and there can't make sense of it. It's just such horrible things going on, and you can't make sense of it. And that also feels destabilizing for a human, because we don't have control over a lot of things that are systemic in our country and our world. And so when things are so destabilizing, like externally, the like internal locus of control is what we call in the psychology world, being able to internally try and it almost, that's all you can do in those moments, is to internally figure out how to regulate and how to have some control when everything around you is chaos.
That's right. Because you can't control what's around you. You can only control what is within you.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And that's a really hard thing to understand, to wrap your head around, but even harder to put into practice.
100%.
But I think once you get to that point where you can find peace in the chaos. Like when I went to the beach, to Island Beach here, and I've talked about this before in recent episodes, when I went to Island Beach here with my husband after I had, the last 3.5 years prior to that, traumatic 21-week pregnancy loss, 5 failed rounds of IVF, which it doesn't even give, if you're not familiar with IVF, it doesn't even give justice to what that means. Multiple miscarriages, multiple surgeries, and we went to the beach, and I said to my husband, this has to be done. This has to be done now. I have not had enough, quote unquote. I could keep going. I could keep doing more. I do feel like I'm dying inside. Like I feel like my soul has just died and shattered into a million pieces.
Yeah.
However, I need to now find a way to move on. I don't know how I'm ever going to be okay with everything that I put into this process of having a second child. I don't know how I'm ever going to be okay with the way that it turned out or the way that this story went. I don't know how I'm going to find a way. I don't know what is in store for me next. I don't know. But what I do know is that I have to just take my time and I have to stop doing this. And then I have to just allow it all to unfold.
Yes. And
that was really, really hard.
But that's where the freedom comes in. If there's something, however long it takes or whatever you feel like, and I can actually, talk on this a little bit more of what it takes to learn how to let go, right? And not be attached to an outcome. That's something that you're going to want to just implement into your daily life as a whole.
Everything.
It's not just through adversity, right?
That's
and you're
right.
in this really dark space. This is like going to make you more resilient to get through those things. So if you live every day, and really what it comes down to, it's a mindset shift.
It is a mindset
It's something
shift.
you have to practice every day. You have to literally practice changing the way you think every day. We have over 50,000 thoughts a day, right? And 80% of them are negative. I mean, the research has shown
80% of them are negative.
Yeah. So, and intrusive. So if you think about that,
I'm just sitting here with my mouth wide open. I can believe, but I can't believe that this is what's going on in our brains. And this is the way that we're talking to ourselves.
I mean, it is. And it comes, it's very historical as far as the way the world has come from, the prehistoric days and, the way caveman used to live, we just had to survive. Right. And now we've so many things in our life that can help us survive different adversity that we didn't have, but we still have the brain, the part of our brain, the limbic system, right? That just activates and creates situations that make us feel like we can't control, we have no control, and that we're really in danger, as if we were in front of a bear that was about to attack us.
Right.
And it's actually not. So we have to talk to ourselves differently. We have to practice saying things to ourselves. That's what the power of affirmation. And there's research in that. I mean, we have to practice waking up and keeping a journal of, things we're grateful for, and writing things down that's in our brain that maybe feel really heavy and intrusive, getting them out, just doing a brain dump, literally just writing everything, and then set the paper on fire, like throw it away, rip it up.
Yes,
that was just everything in your brain.
I love that. Yep.
But like, it's really important to practice that every day. I mean, I've really been on this journey for over 15 years at this point, 15 to 20 years. My 30th birthday was the biggest show.
I was
when
there.
it comes to that. I know.
I remember. We were all hot messes.
Okay. Anyway, so we don't want to
We're not even going to get into that.
I've been getting my
that's
brain
its own.
into
That's its
that.
own episode.
If you guys want to hear about that, I'm happy to talk about how we were that day.
Yeah.
Anywho, but yeah, I've been on this journey a long time, and not just because I practice CBT and I'm a therapist and, I'm human before
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah,
right?
cognitive behavioral therapy is kind of what I specialize in, but not just that. I'm a holistic practitioner, but the fact of the matter is I wake up every day and I still do this work.
Right.
Every day. It's a little easier now because I really have changed my brain. And you have to remember, we all have neuro pathways in our brain that we can change. And it takes 21 days to create a new habit or something, right?
Yep.
And so you create certain exercises. Go to theanxietyhealer.com. There's a lot of ways you can do this more on my website.
There's so much good info. And also your new updated website is incredible.
Thank you.
Say the website again for everyone.
Theanxietyhealer.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just a lot of resources and a lot of ways you can start this journey for yourself on how to rewire the way you think.
Exactly.
And that is going to, and then also incorporate a lot of these holistic practices that can ground you every day. But that's a lifelong process. That should be something lifelong that everybody strives for when it comes to be successful. That's what
when
anyone
success is.
asks. Yeah. When anyone asks me, it's like, honestly, if I could just get through life with a lot of adversity and know I'm going to feel sad and scared a lot of as I get older. I'm going to lose people I love. Things are going to get harder for me as a person and my own aging and all of this. But I can still wake up feeling really grateful and not envious about anything else, just like grateful. I'm okay. I have food. I have, a bed to sleep in, a warm bed. I mean, I want to work on helping other people just get to that point, no matter what size house they have or whatever.
That's right. Yep. We were sitting in my family room last weekend, and it was my husband and I were sitting on the couch, and my son was sitting with us and my daughter, and the dog was up on the couch, much to my husband's dismay. But anyway, like I always do this, and it's kind of a running joke in the family, but we just had Ferris Bueller's Day Off on because my son, I don't know if it's appropriate for an 8-year-old, but my son thought it was hilarious. But anyway, we were just sitting there, and I looked around and I just said, this is it. This is it, guys. We've made it. Like we've made it. There's nothing more that we need. We don't need anything else in this life. And of course, there's lots of things that we probably do need. And, we have problems with our house, and, we have all sorts of like problems, right? Like just like anybody else, but it's recognizing like, what is success? Like where do you envision the top of your game to be? And I think this conversation started, I'm just going to say one last thing because I'm looking that we're running out of time, as we always are. But I think this conversation initially started because I was saying, that the podcast, I feel like I've been so proud of it. And, That Greenwich Life was such an unexpected thing that started, and it was such an unexpected opportunity that came down the pike for me. And I have felt really, really proud of what it is. It's not perfect. It can be better for sure. But for the mom brain that I have and for the schedule that I have, I'm proud of what I'm putting out week after week. However, like anything else, it's slow going or slow growing, we can say, right? So I don't have 10,000 followers or anything. But I was thinking about it in the same way that we think about recycling, because my son is learning a whole thing about recycling in school. Like, if you just put, 2 disposable plastic water bottles a week into the recycling bin, you're not going to save the world from global warming, but it is something small that you can do that it's an intention that you have, right? Like you want to help, you want to make the world better. And it's something small that you can do that does ultimately help. And so I'm not at the point where I'm communicating my message to as many people as I hope eventually to. But I am communicating my message to a lot of people, and people who feel really moved by it. And so I just want to end this episode by sharing something, which I already told you this on the way here, Allie, but sharing something that came into my inbox. And as you know, if you've been listening to the show, episode 15, grief entered the chat when I least expected it. And I broke down, and I really surprised myself in talking about this really traumatic event in my life. And what I always say about That Greenwich Life is, yes, my hard thing, one of my hard things is my fertility journey. There's other really hard things that I haven't really even quite gotten to yet. Things with my family of origin, things with my childhood, and maybe I will at some point. But, if your hard thing is not fertility related, I still hope that there are many things on this show that speak to you. And so I got this message today out of the blue in my inbox on Instagram, which, by the way, you can follow me at Dorothy on TV. And if you want to ever connect with me or communicate with me, you can do so there. And this really blew me away, because this went back to what I was saying about, if you only put 2 plastic water bottles in the recycling can a week, you're still doing something. So this person wrote, I am so blown away. No joke. My morning came to a halt. I'm listening to the last 2 episodes. And this was in response to something that I had shared, a clip that I had shared. And then the person wrote, wow, my mother, and this is actually really serious, guys. My mother murdered my father in May, and I have been in a tailspin ever since. Only figured out I needed a grief counselor this month. just listen to episode 15, have a video chat with my therapist in 15 minutes, but we'll listen to 16 afterwards. Really appreciate you sharing that. It really helped. Thank you. I'm still just, so my point really, I think it all ties back to what we're saying, which is if you're working really hard on something and you may not be getting the result that you desire or the result that you're looking for, you should keep working and you should keep giving your all and coming at whatever it is that you're doing with your best of intentions. Because even if you make a small impact, you are doing a part in healing the collective and in helping others.
100%.
And you don't know what's in store for you.
No.
So, I mean, that Greenwich Life,
amazing.
I say Greenwich is a setting and it's certainly the main character of the show. But when I look at the back end of things, the metrics, because I can see on the technology that Pod Populi set me up with, there are people listening from all over the country. Like California is colored in, like Washington State. I don't even think I know anybody in Washington State. So the thing is, like, it's really just, if you're even just like helping one person with what it is that you're trying to do, then it's a success.
It's a success.
It's a success.
I would also add that if you can get to a place where you are authentically yourself and you really, really work on loving who you are and knowing that perfection's an illusion, so that's not going to exist anywhere with anybody.
That's right.
And you can just really, really work on being who you are, but then also incorporating, like, if who you are is someone you're not really proud of for different reasons, I don't want you to blame yourself. I want you to learn to love yourself and forgive yourself. And then also just working on doing better.
Yep.
That's kind of like my motto for people, where I just kind of don't align with them because maybe they didn't start their journey yet with healing, but they can get there and I know they have potential. I'm just basically like, do better.
Yep. That's right.
Do better.
Yep. That's right.
Do better.
Well, thank you all so much for listening. And thank you to my special guest, Alison Seponara. You can check her out on Instagram at The Anxiety Healer and also her website, theanxietyhealer.com. She also has an incredible podcast called The Anxiety Chicks. So definitely, I've been a guest on there for a couple episodes.
Have.
So check her out there. And then also, thank you for listening. You can catch That Greenwich Life on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, wherever you enjoy your podcast. If you like what you hear, please go onto the show page on Apple Podcasts, leave a review, leave some stars, preferably 5. If you felt touched in some way, please just copy the link and pop it into a group text and share it with some people, because I think the more that we share all of these discussions, I think the better that we all become, and we're doing it together. And then of course you can follow me at Dorothy on TV on Instagram, and you can check out my new revamped website, DorothyOnTV.com. You can also shop merch, That Greenwich Life merch from the show. There's a little shop tab at DorothyOnTV.com you can head to. And thank you to Pod Populi for having me in your great Greenwich, Connecticut studio, and also to this episode's sponsor, Jonathan's Travels, for all of your traveling needs. And remember, don't just live your life, love it. I will see you all back here next Thursday, if not sooner, through social media. We can chat there. All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.